Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 97. In this show, we're going to be talking about the best online businesses to start in 2025. The new year's rapidly coming up. We're in the last couple months of 204. Obviously, the best business that we think you should start is a membership website, folks. That's pretty obvious, isn't it, folks? Because it is the Membership Machine Show. So I've got my great regular co-host, Kurt, with me. In this episode, we're going to be discussing some of the key things that you need to understand so your launch of your membership website is successful in 2025. A lot of people get lost in the process. We at the Membership Machine Show cannot guarantee success for you, unlike others that pretend they can. But on the other hand, I think if there's some key things that if you understand and you apply them to your launch, you can reduce the risk of non-success dramatically. So I think this is going to be a very important show. But before we go into the meat and potatoes, Kirk, can you quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Yeah, my name's Kurt Von Annen. I own a company called Mañana No Mas, and we focus, surprise, surprise, on membership and learning websites. And I also work directly with WP Tonic and the folks at Lifter LMS.
That's fantastic. Like I say, this is going to be, I think, a really important episode for you. Hopefully you're going to get tremendous value from it. But before we go into the real details, I've got a message from one of my major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Hi there, e-commerce store owner. At Omnisend, we help more than 100,000 e-commerce customers just like you sell their products. We're an all-in-one email and SMS marketing platform that helps you reach your customers, grow your audience, and increase sales. In fact, our customers have seen incredible results with Omnisend, averaging $72 in revenue for every single dollar spent. And if you ever have a question, our award-winning customer support team is available 24/7 every single day. That's one of the reasons we have more than 6,000 glowing reviews and ratings all across the web. So get started with Omnisend today and start growing your business with better email and SMS marketing.
We're coming back, folks. I also want to point out that we've got a great course. It really shows you how to build your membership website from beginning to end on WordPress. It's done by Kirk. You can get this at a tremendous discount, plus a created list of the best WordPress plugins and services. You can get all these goodies by going over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals. So let's have a quick introduction. I think I said the crux. What I wanted from this episode, Kirk, is to lay out some structures, some signposts, so people know that if they follow a certain methodology, they stand getting to the outcome that they're looking for. And I think a lot of people, for understandable reasons, get a lot of things backward when they're trying to build a membership website for the first time or a membership business. Unless they've got a lot of experience in building websites and building online businesses, they tend to focus on the wrong things at the wrong time for understandable reasons. What do you feel?
To put it in terms that kind of resonate with my line of thinking, I agree with you. A lot of times I come in to help a client that is halfway through the process. So they've decided they wanted to have a membership website. They started to build something and they've run into some instance or obstacle and they go, oh, I need a little help. And it's when you jump in there, Jonathan, that some of what you hinted at is absolutely correct. People will plug in some kind of what they think is a community tool. And then you realize when you look at how they set it up, they don't even have a way to actually add people to that community. They don't have a membership structure or a content restriction structure or a payment gateway. And then when you ask them questions about, well, how many paying customers do you have? It ends up being goose egg, none. And then you go, well, where do you keep your community now? And they don't have one started. They don't have a demographic really selected, and they don't have any outreach to start that community. For some reason, people think if they build a website and they buy a Facebook ad, they're going to get traffic, but it's not 1996 anymore. So we have to, figure out how we're going to help people find success in this niche.
Yeah. I think there's some limited factors that people got to be aware of if they're choosing a particular niche to go in. Based on my experience, folks, unless people have an established career in some legacy media platform, they tend to go down this path if they're going to be successful with their membership website. They tend to build a lot of business through offering their time. Basically, they've built a certain following because they're seen because they're freelance of some type. They might be in full-time employment and doing this as a side gig, but they've built a group of people that they're offering services to online or consultation or whatever it is, some knowledge, some service-based business. And that's great. And you can turn that into a full-time gig as well, if you want to, depending on how well you're being paid in your full-time job. That will determine the level of income that you require from your side gig to make that attractive. Or you just want the freedom. But there's always going to be a limit, and the limit is what I call the full calendar. It happens to every freelancer, every subcontractor. It's called the full calendar syndrome. It's the thing that every subcontractor wants, but when it happens, it produces a load of other problems because there's only so many hours in a day and night, and it's a better type of stress than having an empty calendar, but it produces its own anxiety unless for anybody that's got any conscience, because you want to produce decent work because you know that if you don't do it, in the end, that will have the opposite effect, i.e. your calendar's going to end up being empty. But it's extremely stressful dealing with a full calendar. So how can you get around that? Well, people get a lot of traction because they're offering consultations, doing certain type of work. And then how can you overcome that? Well, you can overcome it because there's a certain batch of clientele that have a certain level of experience that they probably could do this work themselves to a certain level. There's a lot of work that every freelancer or consultant does for clients that isn't that complicated. It's because the client that has no experience in that area to some level, and you do it for them as part of a package. And then of that work, there's probably 20 to 30% that unless you're expert, you're best not to do. And there's a certain level of client, if they're offered a detailed course and a process, they could probably do it themselves to a certain level, and with some consultancy on top as well. And that's the type of thing you can package in a membership website. And the beauty of doing that, folks, is that you're not selling your time. You're unlike most freelancers or consultants. Is this making sense, Kurt?
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking, how have I handled my latest initiative in adding SCORM content to WordPress websites. And I basically followed that template that you just articulated. I've got a course that people can take. It's $100. It shows them exactly how to put SCORM into a WordPress website. But there's a certain percentage of enterprise clients that don't really care to know. They just want to have someone do it for them, right? And those are the people with budget. And those are the people that I sell my time to. But for the other people, I sell my knowledge to them through the membership and the education tools.
Yeah. So you decided, for the reasons that we've outlined, that a membership website or a community, the two things are interchangeable, because the most effective membership websites are those that build community. But there's all levels of steps in building community, and just like people tend to have unrealistic expectations about the success that they'll be able to obtain with their membership website, they tend to have similar artificial expectations about building a community online. It's a slow, methodical process, unless, like I said before, you've got a large audience from some other platform. I've seen people in the WordPress that have been much more effective in building a community than I have been. It's one of my weaknesses, folks. I've not been that effective, but I'm a little bit of an introvert anyway. I know that will be surprising, folks, but I am. Like what I said, one of the problems I see, the next problem, is people don't really understand who their student is. They really don't understand who they're aiming, the persona. It's a kind of phrase in marketing. Who is this ideal student? Who are these group of students? People tend to produce a website and content. They tend to focus on the initial course. They're not really focusing on the messaging on the website, on the landing page, on the email sequence that's going to be sent out. You need to really understand, and it's around what we've discussed regularly in this show, folks, around finding a niche. In the end of 2004 and the beginning of 2005, the idea that you can market to a very broad category like health and fitness. I'm just going to build a membership website around health and fitness. It ain't going to work out well to you unless, like I say, I'm going to keep hammering away. Unless you've got a large audience from some other platform, that ain't going to work out. But on the other hand, if you can find a niche in that popular category and really hammer your message and really understand some of the key problems that people face in that niche, it's a good chance you're going to have success. What do you reckon, Kurt?
Yeah, the health and fitness one is a perfect example, right? If you were one of the fitness coaches on The Biggest Loser and you left that show and started your own membership site, you would have a natural injection of many, 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 many people in general fitness. But to be someone that's not known and try and get into health and fitness, you need to focus. You're going to take care of, postpartum recent mothers trying to lose that baby pooch, or you're going to focus on middle-aged men, 50 to 65, fighting beer bellies, or you're going to focus on scrawny kids trying to add bulk coming out of high school. But you're going to focus on some niche, and it seems counterintuitive because you think you are limiting yourself on who you can market to. But if you try to market to those bigger, broader audiences, in truth, you're marketing to nobody. And this was part of my mistake when I first started in this whole, vertical, Jonathan. I can remember I would make a product and it could be an awesome product. But if you don't keep your avatar in mind, if you don't keep your persona in mind, who you're selling to and what reward you're delivering to them, and your copy doesn't speak to their what's in it for them, if it's just bragging about how good your stuff is, because that's what I thought marketing was at first. I thought marketing was talking about how good my products were. It's not. The marketing is, what does your product do for that customer? And so you really have to think about who you're marketing to, what problems you're solving, and then execute.
Yeah. The next thing in is research and development. And people say, well, how do I find this niche? There's it's never been easier, folks. There's so much online community out there through Facebook, Slack. There's so many platforms out there where community, Reddit is a fantastic resource to do this research on. Facebook's a great resource. There's a number, Twitch, there's a number of online communities out there. You can join some other experts in this area. Just join their paid communities just to listen, just to observe. Is there a niche that's obviously been discussed, which that influencer or that person much more established in a particular sector hasn't identified, or it's too niche for them to bother with? There's no excuse for doing research, but I've got to be honest with you, the majority of people that we help, folks, have done no research. What do you reckon, Kurt?
I agree with you, and I almost butt in and interrupted you.
Oh, please, because I do it all the time.
when you said maybe it's too niched down, right? So there's not niching far enough, and then some people think that they can over niche, they can niche too far down. I want to drive people back to the idea of, what does success look like? Remember, not every online project has to be the next Facebook, MySpace, because I'm going to show you how old I am, or LinkedIn. You can have 50 paying users and consider yourself an absolute success. So don't worry about over niching or being too finite on your decision for content, because you don't need 1,000, 2,500, 50,000 people following you. You need a core group of people that you can start and grow with and grow revenue from. And then as time goes, you can always expand and increase your market and your net. But you want to get started. A success is... Being a success is so much easier than people think it is, because you don't need thousands of people. You need tens of people.
Oh, you must have read my mind. I'm going to be discussing this at the start of the second half of the show, which I think we're going to do now, folks. Hopefully we're giving you some broad insights, and when we come back in the second half, we've got some even more fantastic information to give you, so you can build that great membership business in 2025. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Coming back, folks, want to point out we've got a great resource online just for you, and that's the Membership Machine Facebook group. It's a totally free group of people. It's a mixture of WordPress experts with people like you trying to build a membership website and build the freedom success for yourself and for your family. Like I say, it's totally free. I'm posting stuff on there almost every day. Kirk's a member of it. We've got a great community there. If you've got a question, it's a great place to get an answer. So go over to the Facebook Membership Machine Show group and be part of the discussion. So I think in the second half, you touched at the end, you must have read my mind because you touched something really important. Now, people tend to want to build what I call a war and peace version of a course. When they're building their first course, they don't want to do that, folks. And they tend to fixate on content for understandable reasons. What you want to fixate is the student outcome. That's what you want to fixate on. And your first course should be a course that you can try out with a small group of students that you've gathered through your research, and then you've had conversations with this small group, and then you've made them an offer to do this course at a very low price, and got feedback from them. A group of 12, that's all you need, that really do the course. And then after you've done that course, you can utilize that course as an effective lead magnet, because I think downloadable PDFs have their place, but I also offering a course is also a lead. I call it a lead magnet course. Is also a good idea, but it's the next course that you're going to do where the real opportunities lie, folks. After you've done this initial course. And it's the course that's around what I think is the real sweet point, which is the 497 course, the 497. Because if you do the math and you do what we've outlined and you really listen to what we say, it's really possible to generate some real income from the 497. Now, people... But well, it should be 197, and yeah, if you after you've done a successful 497 launch, and it's gone really well, you might look at the $1,997 course, but you're not getting $1,997 out of people unless you've got some track record and you've got a lot of testimonials and you've got buzz, or you're from some other platform and you've got a big audience. It ain't going to happen, folks. But the 497 spot is the sweet spot for somebody like you. What do you think, Kurt?
Oh, you're taking me right down a personal lane because, I have a project that I launched at a low dollar amount, and I didn't get buyers because the dollar amount was too low. So when I did a proof of concept and I invited people to take the course for free, and provided they give me feedback, feedback's the important part. I took that feedback and all of them resoundingly said, the course is better than the price alluded to. So we wouldn't have paid that little for this course because we would assume it would be ineffective. And so I had to raise the price. Now I'm currently selling that course much, much, much higher. And it's getting that sale, not by the thousands, but by the ones and twos, based on its previous track record and success and testimonials, just like you said. So the pricing is really, really important. I have a new client that's going to launch a website in the next couple of weeks, and they made the War and Peace. Against advice, they've got like 90 lessons in their course, and it's beautiful. It's a wonderful course. It's $500. and it's every bit worth the $500, if not $1,500. But they don't have anything else in their website that stair steps the client to that $500 purchase. And so I think they're going to struggle a little bit getting adoption, to come in and say, oh yeah, I'll pay you $500 for that. Because there's nothing else on their site that's $50 or $100 or $150 that kind of lets them stair step to that premium product.
I think I'm right in my math. If you, because it's important to do the steps, because you're going to get the verbiage right. You're focusing on getting the right messaging on your website, building, the right. If you get the right verbiage, it will also, and you're in the right niche, there's a good chance it's going to show up in search. But it's only the only point in showing up in search is that people are searching for what you. If you're showing up for people that ain't searching for the problem, that it's been a total waste of time, folks. So, but if you're in a niche and you've listened and you've done all the things that we talked about in the first half of this show, endlessly in this podcast, we've talked about this, me and Kirk. Because we just see all the time people not doing this, and they're really knowledgeable, and they're great people, and they really want to build a good business, but they also really know their subject, and they've got a lot to offer their students, but they just don't do this, what we are laying out in this episode, and they get disenchanted, they give up. But if they listened and followed this plan that we're giving you, folks, it wouldn't happen. And I've just done some quick math. If you get at around $497, you get 500 students. That's $50,000. If you get 497 and you get 250, that's $25,000. It's not life-changing money, but it ain't bad, folks. And it's a good start to build some other courses on, some one-to-one masterminds, or group masterminds, and other courses, and blah, blah, blah. And it's totally achievable, folks. Totally achievable. Oh, I've done my math wrong, have I?
I think you've done your math wrong, because I was like, those numbers don't make sense.
No.
500 people at $497 would be $250,000.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, I always like to underperform. I overperform, I mean. I love always to overperform. So you see, that's why I'm hammering away at the 497, because it's the type of money that people, if they're really serious, they've got a real problem, a headache, as I say, and they're looking for a solution. Most people, unless they're broke, folks, totally broke, they can think, the verbiage, the message, what the course is offering, for $497, I'll get my credit card. And if you're at $1,997, they're going to think quite a bit. You're going to have a track record, or it's a business. It's not their money. Because then the 497 turns into the 1997, because it's the same mindset when it comes to a business. But I think it's the real sweet point, and there's some really attractive income in that spot. I think it's the honey spot. I think it, and a lot of people don't realise this. What do you reckon, Kurt?
I'm with you. People aren't good at math. Not just you, but a lot of people aren't.
Well, it's early for me, and I got up for some. I get up really early, but for some reason I didn't this morning, and I haven't had my constant supply of coffee. So
I tend to think of not just in dollar amounts, but I tend to think of the energy that comes in a website. And I know that it's a weird crystals and pyramids concept for some people, but if you build an awesome website and there's no users, for some reason, whether you have membership tools and community tools or not, people can sense that there's nothing going on in that site. It just feels dead. If it has active users and people taking that course, there's a certain energy to it. There's a certain
Yeah, that's a good
it's
point.
doing something.
Yeah.
And so to me, if you can get to those 25 to me is like the number. If you can get the 25 paying active users in your website, that to me is like a milestone to success. And to Jonathan's point, if you were to have 25 paying users at the 497 mark, you'd be over six figures. And that, long and short, to a lot of folks, is financial success as well.
Yeah, it's around the concept that some people call a POP, and they use the language of create a prototype. I use a slightly different methodology, minimum viable course, and it comes from the bootstrap startup world, and Rob Rowling, who's a great influencer in that space. So I nicked his concept of minimum viable product, and I call it a minimum viable course. This initial course, and why you're doing it is to learn to help you. It helps you change the verbiage. And I want to point out to you folks, it's really important to have a reasonably good-looking website, and have these important landing pages. To get it up to a certain standard, I'm a bit of a design snob myself. I did my MA in design. I appreciate good design. I'm a bit of a web snob when it comes to web design, but I also know a lot of people overdo it, and especially the verbiage. You're going to change the wording constantly, and especially after you get this first group of students that you have developed a relationship, because you're just looking for a small group. I've heard other influencers and experts in this field say you need 20, you need 30. It ain't going to happen, folks. You just ain't got the bandwidth. But if you go into these online groups and you communicate with members, and you listen, you write down, you find the niche, you identify the problem, you have some discussion, you should be able to get 10, 12 people to sign up if you're to do this initial minimum viable course, and then get feedback from them, and then you can then expand, use that course as your lead magnet, and then as your content as well for Google. You can put some of it on YouTube, on TikTok, on all these social media to drive them. Then you can use that feedback to build the money earner, the $497 course. That's why I was excited about this episode, because I've been thinking about all these concepts for over a year. And I think, I'm probably going to write a longer PDF and provide it to people, because I think if you really understand this, it's totally achievable to get success. But like I say, so many people don't. So, and every successful course is going to be work. And there are people that say, well, it'll be evergreen, you won't have to change it. That's overstating it. That's ridiculous. Because every business needs administration. But there's also some truth about it, because this ain't the same as a service business where you're selling hours of your time, or you're employing people. The problem with employing people is that you're not, or subcontractors is that you're not, your margins get hammered because you're employing other people, unless you're doing higher grade work or you're employing people offshore. At WP Tonic, we're a hybrid, because unless you've got experienced people handling offshore subcontractors, it can rapidly become a nightmare. And we deal with this often ourselves when we're dealing with half-built projects, because because dealing with offshore staff folks is a skill in its own. So unless you're selling your hours or you're selling other people's hours, which has its own problems, a membership is definitely, if you set it up the right way, won't be like that. But on the other hand, it's just it will still require nurturing. It's a bit like saying a plant doesn't need watering. Well, there's some plants that live in the desert that don't need so much maintenance, but they need some. And there's other plants that if they're not watered and loved every day, they just wilt straight away. So that's the difference. I think that wasn't a bad.
That's a pretty good analogy there. You pulled that one out good.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. I'm getting better at this.
It
only took me 8 years to learn how to podcast, didn't it?
Because it depends on which niche you pick, which people group you reach out to. Some people are needy. And I've experienced that firsthand. You get into some audiences where they just
you learned that by working with me, and I'm needy,
and other people are more independent. But it depends on how you set things up. So you talked about something about evergreen and work and trading hours for money. I also don't believe in evergreen as in build it once and never touch it. But here's a great example. I've got a cohort of 10 groups of students going through a course that I've made. So that's 10 students going through it. I'm not teaching it one-on-one or live sessions. They're looking at online content. But to your point, I had to go and modify some of that content. Things have changed in the last 3-4 years. So I went in and I spent a few hours changing that content, modernizing that content, changing some of the verbiage. I changed a couple of the quiz questions, 3-4 hours tops, right? Well, to your point, Jonathan, I spent that 3 or 4 hours doing that, but it wasn't to serve one customer. It was to serve these 10 that I'm working with right now, and it's going to serve the next 30 or 40 that come through, right? And so if you look at what they've paid for this education, that time, instead of being worth $50 an hour to me, is worth, I hate to say online, but it's probably worth $2,500, $3,000 an hour if you break down revenue versus the time you spend making that change. You can succeed in the membership business online with what you spend watching Netflix. You can still have a full-time job, give up watching Netflix, and build a 6-figure income on the side if you are purpose-driven, focused, and follow the steps.
Yeah, I work crazy hours, folks, because I'm a bit of a scattered brain. I can concentrate on stuff if I really commit myself. It's just but I can work in spurts of about a couple of hours, and then I need a break of half hour or 45 minutes, and then I'll work another. So I'm happy to have ridiculously long days, but I'm not working intensely because I can't do it because I'm so scattered. So I kind of work from, I don't know, 8:30 to 9-10 o'clock at night. But I'm not going to tell you I'm hammering away all the time, because I'm not. And some days I don't do anything. Other days I am hammering away all day. But then I tend to, it's because I'm having the day off the next day, Right. Email list. Now,
Ooh.
This is really important, but I've got to be honest with you, listeners. You, the listener. It's confession day. I've not been highly successful on the email list. I've got about a 500 list. I got it up to 2,000 at one time, and then but it was focused at a totally different. My business changed from regional and local web development, web design, to what WP Tonic and the Membership Machine Show has turned into. So, and I wouldn't say I'm an expert on building a list. All I know, it's bloody damn hard. You don't, but on the other hand, you don't need an enormous lists of tens of thousands that's a load of cobblers. What you need, and it's linked, and I observed it. Reflecting back, I can see the mistakes I've made, and hopefully by sharing this and being totally honest with you folks, you won't make the same mistakes. It's really linked to what we discussed in the first part of this show, folks. It's finding your niche, finding the language, finding the key problems. And if your newsletter and the verbiage to get people to sign up for the newsletter is aimed at that niche, they will sign up. If it's not aimed at that niche and there's no problems, and you're not talking to those people in your newsletter, they're going to unsubscribe anyway. But if it is, you're going to build up a powerful list that you can market other courses to. But it's getting the right, finding the niche, and then your newsletter is about that niche. If it isn't, but on the other hand, I know no area, well, I say no, I take that back, almost all online marketing advice, most of it's tosh, in my opinion. But email and building up email is really important, but I know no area where that more nonsense is talked about. What do you reckon, Kurt?
I think this is an area where you and I will be separated a little bit. I really think it comes down to use case and how big or small your niche is. For instance, we've all heard of Groupon before. You can't have a Groupon region of your own unless you have 25,000 recognizable emails, right? So you can't have junk and hard bounces. So if you have 25,000 emails in a region, Groupon says, well, you are equitable. You are someone that could survive in the discount game. But think about it. That's not a niche, right? They put out this thing that says, buy a ticket to Disney or get a $2 off on a coffee, or it's all over the place, right? And so then you start driving down and you go, okay, so here's my niche. Bam, 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 bam. And once you understand the percentage of population that your niche kind of facilitates, and then you think about the geographic area that you want to serve, you can kind of pick a goal number. And so, I have a mail list of like 3,000 people for Mañana No Mas. And at one point it was 8,000. And I think I did the same thing Jonathan did. I took a look at that list and I said, what's my open rate? My open rate was horrible. And then I started looking at the names in the list, and it was like, I worked with that person 12 years ago, or I knew that person at church 9 years ago. And I said, these are not potential clients. These aren't leads. All I'm doing is spamming people that used to be friends. So I threw it away. It sounds painful and stupid, but I just deleted the whole list and started from scratch. And now I'm where I'm at now, but my open rate is much better, and my messaging is focused on the right audience. And when I look at my niche in the online space for being memberships and online learning, and I look at my potential for population, I think I'm in a really good spot.
Yeah, I think you made some great points there. Just to finish off on the bright spot is that what we pointed out to you folks is that if you get your niche, get your verbiage, build your minimum viable course, get input from that initial small group of students, build your next course based on your minimum viable course, which you're going to use as a kind of highly converted lead magnet, and then base some of that content for your next course, which will be your money-making course, that at $497, that you only need 250 to 500 students to make some considerable income. You don't want to listen to my original math, which Kurt was so tactfully pointed out. You can make, that's totally possible, folks. I'm not saying it's easy.
No.
It ain't going to be easy, but when you do the basic math and really think about it, If you do the initial work, folks, and you get the right verbiage, and you just don't build the bloody course without doing any of the things that we've outlined in this podcast video, your chances of success have increased enormously, in my opinion. What do you reckon, Kurt?
I liken it to MMA or boxing or any of these kinds of extreme sports. If you get into the ring and you think you're going to fight another expert, but you haven't done the road work, you haven't been running, you haven't been skipping rope, you haven't been hitting the bag, you haven't been sparring at the gym, you're going to get clocked, right? And it's the same thing. It's the same thing in the internet space. You know, it's like being in a fight with professional fighters. You are putting your product out there and you're saying, you know, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, right? Which sounds silly, especially for introverts, but you have to get eyes to your product. And if you don't do the road work, if you don't, like, I hate Slack. I'm just going to say it. I am not a fan of using Slack, but I am in Slack. I'm in 6 or 7 different Slack channels, answering questions, adding value, putting myself forward as an expert in the things that I'm an expert in. And I'm getting leads to work on projects or have people come and take my courses at Mañana No Mas because of that effort. You got to do the road work. You got to put yourself where the audience is, and not necessarily selling. You're not pitching people all the time, but you are positioning yourself as an expert in this category and letting people know that you have resources to help them become the expert that you have become. And you're just passing information along, and people see value in that. And that's the road work to become a success.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to point out before we end the show, folks, is there's this message about entrepreneurship that, you know, the people that really succeed were great risk takers. There's always some risk in anything that you're going to get a reward for. But most really successful businessmen and women, they do everything to reduce the risk of failure. That's why they're sharp, because they really understand the figures, they understand their audience, they understand where they're competing in, and they do everything to reduce risk, not increase the risk. Yeah. So they're practically, it's like being a general going into battle, folks. When the battle starts, all plans go up in the air, but the best generals, they've really won the battle before it even started. They outclass the enemy in materials and training of their troops. They understand the landscape of the battlefield. They've researched their opponent, and they put themselves in the mind of their opponent and look at the tactics of their opponent general and understand the tactics. So past battles can't guarantee, but they're good signposts of how your opponent is going to react to your own battle tactics. So they've done all this work, folks. So they practically won the battle before they even started it. But that's what you got to do with what we've talked about in this episode. Hopefully you found it really useful. Give us some feedback. Leave some comments in YouTube. If you're on the podcast, please go to the WP Tonic YouTube channel and subscribe and leave some comments there. Give us some feedback. If you want me to write this out and provide a PDF, like I say, go to the WP Tonic Membership Machine YouTube or join the Facebook group and leave a comment, and I'll knock this up and I'll send it to you. We will be back next week with another great show. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.